the audience ask some questions for sure. Craig, having watched Just Gem and Eternal Beauty, this is not the most obvious subject matter for me, looking at your career. So what was it that you thought this could be a Craig Roberts film?
The fact that people would actually see this one.
Oh wow!
That's the mark of a Craig Roberts film. Nobody sees it.
Nobody sees it. Yeah.
Well, we've proven that wrong. It's on the side of buses, Craig.
I know. Yeah, it's very scary.
It's got advertising.
I know. I don't know. I think the movies I'd made beforehand were about outsiders in some way, I suppose, and this felt in keeping with that. And the last movie I made was based on my auntie, that was about a woman living with paranoid schizophrenia, and the aim of that was to like recast somebody's weakness as a strength, and in like some kind of superpower way. And as soon as I read the script, I saw him as Morris as like Superman. That's why he's wearing the Superman colours on his vest right there with the diamond.
We have that lovely moment when he's coming out of the yard.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that and the what else is it? The round the world thing.
Yeah.
Well, and the number plate on the car, which I only realised when I visited set, you said
is Clark Kent's Kryptonian name. Yeah.
Jarrell or something.
Did you notice this? My goodness.
Did you?
Who spotted that?
Wow. Nodding in a
Geek alert!
Yeah.
And we actually changed, I don't know if you know, but at the last minute I changed the dog, or like the type of dog it was.
Yeah.
And that's because it's actually Superman's dog.
Oh, the golden retriever.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be an Alsatian, if it was correct to the true story, but it's a director's medium.
Artistic license. Simon, this is a journey you have been on, I think, for about 15 years.
Correct, yes.
Not every day, I hope.
Full-time job.
Full-time. So about 15 years ago, you, your long-suffering producer Tom Miller, and a brilliant sports journalist named Scott Murray,
Fantastic sports journalist.
who's here in the house, you all went to Barrow-in-Furness to try to learn more about the Flitcrofts.
Yes, and learn more about alcohol and about trying to kill ourselves with booze. No, we went to Barrow to meet Morris's surviving relatives, because that's the right way of putting it. Anyone who knew Morris, basically. But we met the twins, and they took us for a night out.
What does a night out with the Flitcroft boys look like?
It looks like getting thrown out of a lot of pubs. We even, one pub we got thrown out of before we'd even gone into the pub, which is a miracle. Scott and I were outside, and I think Gene went in first, and he went, "We're all right in here, they like us in here," and then he was thrown out, sort of on top of us before we'd even got into the pub. They're sort of real characters in Barrow, and they showed us a great time. Talked about their dad a lot. There was a statue of Emlyn Hughes, who's the footballer, and they threw beer cans at that, going, "That should be my dad, should be dad, that, the famous son of Barrow."
Maybe now, is there a campaign?
Yeah, I think the statue is long overdue. There was a screening in Barrow of this. You went to it, didn't you? It was quite...
Yeah, a couple of days ago we went to, it was very emotional actually, in Ulverston, and we showed it to James Flitcroft, Morris's son that's still alive, and to the family, and yeah, it was really emotional to kind of honour him and put him on the big screen. And then we started drinking, and we almost went searching for vampires. That's where it turned.
I'm sensing a theme here with the Flitcroft family. But Simon, when you were there, how did you even hear about Morris's story in the first place? Did you read an article about it, or how did you
well,
hunt
the
begin?
very first thing, when I was a junior, my dad was a greenkeeper, so I was been involved in golf all my life. And when I was a junior, the name floated around, and it was used sort of to describe a bad golfer, so if you're a really shit golfer, you were a Flitcroft. And so I'd heard the name around and knew sort of what it meant, but for the juniors, he was like one of us, because he was looked down upon by the other members, which everyone was, unless you were sort of, a white middle-class guy in charge of a sort of a tile factory. You were looked down upon. So Morris was sort of like one of us, and then I forgot about him for 20 odd years, and then when he died in 2007, his obituaries were in the newspapers. And then I thought, by then had given up on my dream of becoming a pro golfer, and I was doing comedy, which I was a lot more successful at. And so I thought, here's a way of straddling my two passions, golf and comedy. And then Scott, I wrote a very bad screenplay, to cut a long story short, and then Scott persuaded me to do a book, which was a good idea because then I found out the real facts about Maurice Flitcroft. You ought to do research before you write a film.
Oh,
This is a lesson.
interesting concept. Yes.
So we wrote a book, and then I wrote a much better screenplay off the back of all that knowledge that Scott and I gained from the book. Yeah.
But what impressed you about Morris? I mean, I think I've spoken to you, and you liked it. It wasn't a joke to him. It wasn't. He didn't think it was.
No, that was the most important thing. Scott and I, when we went up to Barrow, the thing we dreaded most was meeting sort of family and friends and them saying, "Oh, he was just larking about. It was just a laugh. It was just a joke." But immediately they went, "Oh no, it was 100% serious. He absolutely thought he was good enough to do it." And so that was very important. And then I think Scott and I were lucky enough to get hold of his autobiography, which was 500 pages, sort of handwritten, unpublished. Of course, he tried to get it published, being Morris, but there was no takers. And in that there was a little passage which opened the key to this sort of screenplay, which is that he got the sequence at the beginning where he gets evacuated to Scotland, and he has this moment in a different life, a different class, if you like, middle-class family, who says, "You can be whatever you want to be, young Morris." And what impressed me most, trying to Christmas, is he went back to Barrow and he went, "I'm going to stick with that, even though the only job is the shipyard. I'm going to stick with it, and I'm going to, And then he found golf, and the rest you've seen.
And Craig, I don't think you're much of a golfer, from what I've read.
No, and I'm still not. No.
Okay. Were you scared about making a film that even involved golf? No offense to the golfers in the room, but golf is not always perceived as like the coolest sport. Were there sort of stigmas around how much golf? This is not Happy Gilmore, etc. I mean, how did you approach that sort of golf landscape, as it were?
Well, I think it was, for me, when I read the script, certainly golf was the backdrop, but it didn't really feel like it was about golf. I think he could have been pursuing anything. Morris decided on golf as a career. For me, it's about family and love and kind of propping people up to be the best version of themselves. I think that's what kind of attracted me to Morris the most. All too often, if you're British, you're told to be humble and kind of self-effacing and self-deprecating, whereas he's the opposite of that. He kind of, societal constructs are there to put you in a box, and he did not want to be in that box. He was the Kanye West of golf. He said he could do it. Unfortunately, it didn't work out the way it did for Kanye West, but still he tried, and that's what I love about it.
I mean, I think the jury's still out a little bit right now. I mean, he's a great rapper, but...
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not talking about his views.
His
yeah,
politics.
No,
Okay.
that's, yeah.
We're not going there. How did you want to balance, I mean, because you genuinely laugh, and I cried when I watched this. How did you want to balance that comedy so it wasn't, I mean, there was some physical comedy in it, which we love. How did you think about balancing the comedy with the emotional side and the family resonance?
Well, we talked a lot, sorry, wow.
Some physical comedy there.
Jack Tati. We talked a lot about, we had a similar, we love Keeping Up with the Kardashians. So that was the biggest reference.
Kanye.
That was the biggest reference for Simon really going into it. No, unfortunately not. With the comedy and the drama, the comedy was always there in the script. It was really, really funny. And my biggest fear was probably just shooting it like a comedy. If we'd have shot it like a stereotypical comedy, it would be wides, mediums, and close-ups. And one thing we were adamant on was that we wouldn't be. It was not like the king of comedy for anybody that's seen that. Rupert Pupkin is a comedian. He believes he's funny. Other people don't believe he's funny. We laugh at him for that fact. And the way that's built in comedy is that you have a close-up of Morris saying something strange, and then somebody reacting, going, "That doesn't seem right," and that's your kind of rim shot, comedy. And we didn't really want to do it that way. I felt like it would be nice if we shot it like a drama almost, because the script was funny enough and the lines were there. So I think that's probably how it, if it does it, kind of toes the line of comedy and drama, and the Kardashians.
Who's your favorite Kardashian, Simon?
I have no idea what Craig's talking about. I'll bow out of that question.
How
I don't know.
Yeah, that's right.
Simon, how did you think about the comedy? And did the comedies in the script sort of evolve through the different drafts, or was it all?
Yeah, I mean, I actually put a lot more sort of physical stuff in there, because things like the twins they used to go. I remember Dad always used to clip us around the ear, so I had lots of them hitting them. and then sort of people went, it's a bit weird, he keeps hitting them. And I was going, well, that was normal, that's normal in their household. He didn't not abusive, but it was just their sort of, their style, was quite rambunctious. And then there was a few things like, I think we had a scene where Morris's trousers fell off, and Mark went, I don't think we should do that. I don't think his trousers should come off. And I think they actually did come off in real life, but it would look like we were searching for laughs, and I think that's, because it was a true story. I mean, that's the difference. I sort of written, co-wrote Paddington, the Paddington films, and in that you can have buckets falling on heads and things happening. Whereas here, because it's a true story, you do have to adhere to, what sort of really happened, and try and stick to that, and hope that the comedy comes out in that way rather than to go searching too much for laughs. It's not Caddyshack.
And you just did a brilliant Mark Rylance impersonation. I hope everybody heard him on.
But I don't tell him about it.
Why was Mark Rylance? Was he the top choice, or Craig was?
He was the only one available.
Okay, the only Oscar winner available to your shoot date.
DDL's retired, so that was it. No, I mean, he's kind of the best. We wanted a character actor and somebody that would completely ground it. And what I love about Mark is he feels like a cocktail of like Bill Murray, Jack Tati, and Buster Keaton all in one. Like his physicality is incredible, but also he's very kind of Harold and Maude in his delivery. And that felt kind of right. Again, it wasn't playing to the laughs too much. And I think we're lucky to have him. We sent him the script, and I think on the press release of it, when he joined the cast, he said that he'd never been offered a comedy before, which is shocking to me. Like, I think he's very, very funny.
And he really immersed himself in it. He went up to Barrow and did his rites.
I think he had a night out with the
He had a
Flitcrofts
few nights
boys.
out. He didn't come back for 4 days. And he came back, and he sort of gets into character, doesn't he? His accent was Barrow the whole time. I mean, he'd be Mark, but he'd be like, all right, Simon, how are you doing? Okay. And I've never seen an actor, like when I act, I don't know what you're like, but I learn my lines and then I get worried if I forget them. He didn't give a shit he never forgot a line because he was Morris and he was there. And sometimes he'd wait and he'd be going, has he forgotten? Is he just waiting for the impulse to say it? And that's very different to the way I do things. That's why he's the best actor in the world, and I was in Horrible Histories. But anyway, he's really amazing, and sort of, Craig said, we've got the best actor in the world. I think Steven Spielberg had just said that about him, and we didn't think we'd get him because he only does Spielberg. And I'd heard him on Desert Island Disc going, I don't like films, I don't like doing them. Yeah.
That's reassuring.
I still don't.
And Simon, you are a golfer yourself, you mentioned.
Yes.
Yes. How was it teeing off on the set?
It was everything for him.
Was it nerve-wracking?
It was the highlight of my life. It was nerve-wracking. I was committing my swing to celluloid. There's not much pleasure comes with playing golf. Anyone who plays golf knows it's mostly torture. So it's nice to have those good days. And that was the guy Ben who was playing Jim Howard, who went before me. And he was a pro, and he couldn't really hit a good shot because he was going, man, I can't use these wooden clubs because they haven't used wooden clubs for a long time. But I was using my wooden club I used when I was a junior, when I was good. And I got up, and I was nervous, but that's my one take that's in that shot, straight down the middle, about 230 yards, and the audience applauded, and it was the greatest moment of my life.
That's all in his head.
You should corroborate. You were there.
No, I was there.
And you went. Do you want to go again? And I went, no.
And I was happy he said that because we'd run out of time. So.
And Craig, does this inspire you to try golf, or does it has it helped your disco dancing, or what for you?
Oh, nothing will help my dancing. I don't find that comfortable at all. No, it's not made me better at golf. My dad was very good. He played off a two. My dad was very, very good, and I think could have been professional at some point. And I think that's partly what made me want to do this movie, is that it'd be the first movie he'd actually watch. He loves golf so much. But no, although we're playing on Thursday.
We are playing together on Thursday in a Flitcroft trophy. We're having our own Flitcroft trophy where the worst score wins, so you've got a shot.
Thank you very much.
Keep us posted. I would love to see if there's any audience questions or comments. I think we've got some mics on both sides. Is somebody running up there? Because then we've got somebody in about row 4 in the middle. We're going to the back first, it looks like. Oh, yes.
Hi, I think it's probably a question for both, but what was the thinking, or what was the inspiration for the visuals behind the sort of dreamscapes that we saw? Obviously you had a lot of golf equipment to work with, but I thought the visual sides of it were really interesting. It kind of reminded me of the Mighty Boosh in a way, almost, with the moon kind of turning around. I was just wondering what your inspiration for that was.
Well, it was when I wrote the screenplay, I always had a little bit of sort of Billy Liar in my head, in terms of, because the gap between how Morris saw his golf and how other people saw it was quite wide. So I always I wrote that in, but I didn't know how it would be realised, and then Craig sort of realised it, basically. So I'll let you take over.
With the money that we had, yeah. It was, I think, well, I loved, Billy Liar was a great reference for it, and also The Big Lebowski. It felt like, that was kind of in keeping with that. And yeah, I suppose I can see the Bush thing a little bit, I suppose, in the fact that it feels very much like what Morris would see. But yeah, I think it was mainly down to the VFX company coming up with some of the visuals and then kind of steering that. That's what most of directing is, really. It's like being a conductor, and you have great people that can play the instruments, and then you just try and take all the credit for it.
Somebody said to me today, we were doing press junkets today, and somebody said that golf films fail visually. Like boxing films are very popular, but golf films, because of the distance between the sort of hitter and the result. So it's quite hard. It's not very cinematic. You see someone hit a shot and then you see the result. And they used the word pioneering with your drone shot, because Craig had this drone shot, and I said I would tell you tonight. I forgot to tell you before. But so that drone shot, which actually allows you to see the flight of the ball, and now everyone can enjoy golf in the cinema because of Craig's pioneering drone.
Well, before you clap, I stole that from Happy Gilmore.
Oh. And I said I hated Happy Gilmore.
When he drives it from his garden, it shoots through the street and it goes through all the trees. It's like as it goes through the trees and then lands in the thing. And I was like, it'd be nice to do a nod to Happy Gilmore.
This is a more cinematic, artistic version, of course.
Ain't nothing wrong with Happy Gilmore.
Okay. It's a different film.
I don't love it. It's more of a hockey film.
Yes, hello.
Hello. Thank you very much. What a wonderful film. Brilliant performances. Really enjoyed it. I have a question about the music. I imagine with films like this, I'm always intrigued because it feels like there's a fine line you have to tread, because the music's so important because it accentuates these very powerful emotional moments that are coming, but it's still a comedy, so you've got to tread carefully, because you go too far one side, you could go into a slightly cheesy place, but this was really done right. So in the edit, are you kind of just very bulletproof on that to make sure that the music is doing its job?
Well, it's interesting. Actually, to be totally honest, I shot the movie to a lot of music, but to a lot of different music. I shot the movie to a lot of Amy Mann, which is the Magnolia score for Paul Thomas Anderson. And when I put the movie together for the first time, it was incredibly depressing. And people got very, very worried. I thought I'd be sacked. So then we put Up on, the Up soundtrack, and everything felt okay again. But in terms of what you see in terms of, I knew there'd be a lot of tracks, and it did worry me that there'd be a lot of tracks, because sometimes it can feel like you're like wallpapering over problems, and that was never the case with this. We didn't need to do that. So Once Upon a Time in Hollywood by Tarantino is a great reference, because he uses a lot of diegetic sound, which is all coming from radio, so it doesn't feel like the whole movie is a trailer, if that makes sense. And then with the score, we had Isabel Waller-Bridge do the score, and it's beautiful. And actually, my main reference for the score was Coronation Street, because I love the beginning of Coronation Street. It's romantic and it's really, really beautiful, and weirdly reminds me of Taxi Driver. And I love Taxi Driver also, and I find Taxi Driver quite funny actually, because it's, you know, it's like dun 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 dun. It's very serious, and then he's just this, you know, having a go at everybody. So Taxi Driver and Coronation Street.
Have you seen Coronation Street, Wendy? Do you know this? What is Coronation Street?
I am familiar. I wouldn't say I watch it. Somebody in my household may indeed
Scott.
watch it.
Scott
Might
likes
watch
it.
it. Yeah. This is the first time I've heard it referred to in reference to Taxi Driver, so I'm going to take that away.
Don't take it. It's good, honestly. Like the original, I think it was recorded in the '60s. With the orchestra, it's really beautiful. Really worth checking out. I'm not joking, even though my delivery seems very dry and I'm not interested.
It's not true. Okay. Did we have another? Yeah, we've got a question up there.
Hi. I'm actually a bit of a golf nerd, so I actually remember Maurice Flitcroft. Is that his right name?
Flitcroft, yeah.
Yeah, but obviously back in the 80s and the 70s, the RNA, which is the Royal Ancient, were really very like crusty and stuff. So how have they reacted to this, to your film, which is excellent by the way, and I've read his book as well. But how did they react to it? Because I seem to recall that they were really upset by this man who kept trying to sort of ruin their etiquette and ruin their procedures and things.
Yeah, it's a good question. They haven't said anything yet. We're waiting for that noose to drop. No, they actually, to be fair, Scott and I spoke to Michael Bonalack, who is who I think he's not the secretary of the RNA anymore, but he was when we wrote the book, which was in 2000 and something, 9 or 10. And he was very much of the opinion that Keith Mackenzie, who was played by Rhys Ifans, had been a little bit too harsh on Maurice. And so the RNA sort of came round, you know, they have got a bit less crusty, as you say. But Keith Mackenzie just came down with an iron fist. I mean, there was things we didn't put in the film, crazy stuff like employing a handwriting expert.
I think they
From
changed the
like
rules,
MI5.
didn't they, to prevent...
Oh, they changed
like,
the rules, yeah. They changed the rules so that you needed proper certification for a professional to be professional. But they did what happened. The catch-22 that happens in the film is real in that they banned him from joining a club. So just like you or I could join a club, they said, well, if you're a professional, you can't join a club, because and then so he had no way of improving at all, which really angered him. And in fact, a lot of his friends said if they hadn't have come down on him so hard, he might not have tried again and again to get in the Open, but that was the only way he could play golf. So he was really a bit too harsh on him. The other thing about Keith Mackenzie, just as a by-the-by, which used to be in the film, was that he survived a plane crash. He was in the army, and he survived a plane crash that killed like about 40 people, and he walked out of it. And it used to be in the film as like part of his sort of road to Damascus, sort of moment of realizing that life's too short. But we didn't make it because it's so crazy. I don't know, we should have put it in, walking out of a plane crash. And probably too expensive. Someone went, we're not having a plane crash.
Okay. Not for 10 seconds of footage, no.
Thank you.
Thanks. Is there another, we have time for one more, maybe? I can't see, it's so dark up there. Do you see any hands? Whoever has a mic and a
Hi.
hand up. Hi, oh, there we go.
So I wanted to ask, is Mark a golfer, and how did he find shooting the golf scenes and getting the swing right? Because obviously it's quite a singular swing.
He claims, did you say he'd never played before? He played he swung a club as a kid. And then I put him with, I'm a member of Muswell Hill, and there's a guy there who's a bit of a hippie and sort of lives in a caravan and like is into spirituality and stuff. And I said, Mark's gonna like him, and he did. He was like, I love that guy. But Mark's swing, I think, is pretty. Do you not think it's good? I think it's actually better than Maurice Flitcroft's actual swing.
Well, I went on the day that day that they did the practice, and it was the first time he said he'd swung a golf club in like years and years. And I recorded it, and my dad played. I sent it to my dad. I was like, that's a pretty good swing. He's definitely played.
Yeah.
He was able to, I think, I mean, I don't know golf that well, but I think to be able to be bad all the time, but in a specific place, takes a certain level of skill to do that.
Yeah, he's quite athletic, isn't he?
He is, yeah. He's a pretty physical man. He's a physical specimen. I fancy him, you know. I am attracted to him. No, he is. No, he's quite. He's physical.
What a medical report.
But I think his swing's pretty good. Yeah, you know.
Oh. Thank you. I think we probably have to. Do we have time for one more? Unless they're throwing us out. Is there anybody else with a hand up, or I'll ask another?
Interesting, actually, to go back on what Simon was talking about how the RNA have responded. I think I'm right in saying that actually when we tried to film at certain golf clubs, they weren't really up for us filming there. Still.
Because they're scared of the RNA.
I'm not sure, but that made us really, really want to make the movie.
Great. I would love to hear what the Flitcroft family thinks, because we've mentioned James Flitcroft, who's the surviving twin, and is he sweeping the street or something as an extra?
James is in the movie, yeah. James, in the scene where Morris is sweeping the streets, there's two guys walk past and they go, what's the line? Go on, Morris! And that's James, his son, one of the disco dancing world champions. And then Morris's granddaughter is in the film as well. She plays Mike's secretary with the red hair, and she's really amazing. She's a great actress, and they love it, and they love Mark like crazy. Like they all just adore him. And whenever they're at screenings, I go, "Hi guys," and they go, "Where's Mark? Where's he coming? Is Mark coming? Where's Mark?" Okay.
I think they're really close as well, James and Mark.
They are, yeah.
James was like, "I'm going to go to Jerusalem with you." I was like, "No, I've not been asked."
Yeah, they go around each other's houses, and yeah, so it was important to us to get their support, and yeah, so it was nice to have them involved.
And they were pretty emotional on the night that we showed it to like the community, and it was very special.
Yeah. And yeah, Craig, what do you hope people take away from watching this film?
Wow. I just think, I hope that you said this the other day about, you know, what's your definition of success, and sometimes it's not always winning. Morris says it at the end, you know, for every winner there's 149 losers. I hope people are kinder to one another, and I hope people prop each other up to really realize what they want to be and who they should be. Like I said earlier with the whole humble thing, I think if you really want to go for something, you should, and I think that's what I've learned from Morris the most.
Simon,
What
what
have you got to lose? You know, are you going to ask me the same question?
Yeah, well, no. What did you learn from Morris all these years?
Failing's fine. You know, it's fine. I mean, it is. It's like Morris said this great thing. It sounds quite simple, but he said, you know, people say when you're younger, if at first you don't succeed, try again, and then they stop saying that to you after you're 40. And why is that? You know. So I really like that. I'm like, yeah, keep trying stuff. No one gets to the deathbed and goes, I wish I'd tried to do less. So yeah.
So everybody, try some golf, try some disco
some
dancing.
Golf. Try piano.
The Kardashians.
Just watching them, you don't mean anything else. Okay. I think we better wrap there before we get in any further trouble. Big thanks to E1 and Picture House for tonight's event, and to Simon and Craig, obviously. And tell your friends, it's out on Friday across the UK. So
Thank you
even
so much
if they
for
don't
coming.
love golf, tell them to go see it.